There's a quiet hum, a low, steady pressure that never quite goes away. Most of you know exactly what I'm talking about, even if you've never been able to put it into words. You work hard, you put in the hours, you play by the rules, and yet, something always seems just out of reach. That next level, that breakthrough, the financial freedom that keeps moving further away the closer you think you're getting. You look around and see other people who don't seem to be working any harder than you, who figured something out that you haven't. They're pulling in $200,000, $300,000, even more, while you're grinding away, stuck in the current of average. This isn't about blaming outside forces. This is about something happening on the inside. It's about recognizing the invisible patterns that are holding you back and making a conscious decision to change them. If you're ready to stop drifting and start steering your own financial future, hit subscribe right now. Join a community of people who are done with empty motivation and hungry for real, actionable insight. For years, you've been sold a story. Work hard, get good grades, climb the ladder, and you did. You showed up. You delivered. But the financial abundance you were promised? Still just out of reach. Here's what nobody tells you. There's a silent code, a way of thinking and operating, that separates people who consistently level up their income from everyone else. It's not about luck. It's not about connections or raw intelligence. It's about a specific set of skills that are rarely taught in school and almost never talked about in mainstream self-help circles. These aren't technical skills. We're not talking about coding or marketing funnels. These go much deeper. They're the foundation on which real, lasting wealth is built. The architecture of your mindset, the engineering of your identity, and the precision of your strategic thinking. Picture a tangled ball of yarn. Every strand represents a thought, a belief, an emotion. For most people, when pressure hits, those strands only get more knotted. Anxiety tightens around self-doubt, and reactive decisions follow. Cognitive decoupling is the ability to untangle that mess. It's the capacity to separate your emotional reaction from your rational assessment of what's actually happening. Think of it as building a mental buffer zone. When a high-stakes decision lands in your lap or an unexpected financial setback hits, your primitive brain screams danger. It wants you to react fast, retreat, play it safe. But playing it safe in today's world often just means staying stuck. The person earning $200,000 a year isn't immune to that fear. They feel the same pressure you do. The difference is they've learned to observe those feelings without being controlled by them. They can mentally step back and look at the situation like an outside observer. Clear-eyed, objective, strategic. This isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about acknowledging them, understanding where they're coming from, and then choosing a different response. It's the difference between being swept away by a river and standing on the bank, watching the current move. So how do you build this skill? It starts with mindfulness, not as a spiritual practice, but as a mental tool. Spend 5 minutes a day just watching your thoughts. Don't engage, don't analyze, just notice them passing by. That simple practice builds the neural pathways that make decoupling possible. When a tough email comes in or a project goes sideways, pause. Take a breath. Before you react, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Is this emotion helping me move toward my goal? Or is it just a knee-jerk reaction? That pause, that fraction of a second, is where clarity lives. It's where you stop being a passenger in your own head and take the wheel. Here's a real example. Say a potential investment crosses your desk. Your gut screams too risky. The fear of loss is real. Without cognitive decoupling, you walk away and potentially miss a major opportunity. With it, you acknowledge the fear, then consciously set it aside and look at the actual data. What are the probabilities? What do reliable sources say? You don't dismiss the fear. You just don't let it make the decision for you. Fear is an alarm bell. It's not a directive. Cognitive decoupling lets you hear the alarm without panicking and make decisions rooted in strategy, not survival instinct. This goes way beyond self-confidence or positive affirmations. This is about deliberately engineering the person you need to become in order to reach your financial goals. Most people operate on a default identity, shaped by their past experiences, their upbringing, the cultural narratives they absorbed growing up. And while that identity feels familiar, it's often loaded with limiting beliefs and outdated stories. I'm not good with numbers. I'm not a natural leader. I'm just not the kind of person who makes big money. None of those are objective facts. They're stories, and those stories drive your decisions. which drive your results. High earners understand that identity isn't fixed, it's fluid. It can be intentionally reshaped. They don't wait until they've hit $200,000 to start thinking and acting like someone who earns that much. They embody that identity before the external results show up. This isn't fake it till you make it. This is a deep internal shift. It starts with asking yourself, if I were already the person earning $200,000 a year, how would I think? How would I act? What decisions would I make? Then you start making those decisions, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels like a stretch. This process has two key components: identity auditing and identity prototyping. Identity auditing is an honest, unflinching look at your current beliefs and behaviors. What stories are you holding on to that no longer serve you? What habits are out of sync with who you want to become? Write them down. Be ruthless about it. Then comes identity prototyping, actively designing your future self. What are that person's core values? How do they handle setbacks? What habits do they maintain? What kind of people do they surround themselves with? Start small. If your current identity defaults to procrastination, your new identity tackles the hardest task first, even if it's just 15 minutes. If your current identity avoids networking, your new identity makes one meaningful connection per week. Every small, intentional action reinforces the new identity, slowly making it your baseline. Think of it as building a mental avatar. You're the architect. When you face a decision, stop asking what would I do, and start asking what would the $200,000 version of me do. That subtle shift bypasses your old programming and taps into your future potential. The world, especially the financial world, is not random. It runs on patterns, cycles, and interconnected systems. Most people see isolated events, a market crash, a competitor's success, a new technology taking off. High earners see the current beneath the surface, the subtle shifts, the emerging trends, the cause and effect relationships that most people miss entirely. This isn't about having a crystal ball. It's about developing a mental framework for seeing how things connect, identifying leverage points, and spotting opportunities where others only see noise. You build this skill through three things: deep curiosity, continuous learning, and structured reflection. Deep curiosity means asking why, repeatedly. Why did that company succeed? Why is this industry consolidating? Why are consumer habits shifting this way? Go past the surface explanation. Get to the root cause. Continuous learning means going beyond industry news. Read economics, psychology, history, technology. The more diverse your knowledge base, the more patterns you're able to connect across different domains. But the real power comes from structured reflection. At the end of every week or month, sit down and review. What worked? What didn't? More importantly, why? What patterns showed up in your client conversations? What recurring obstacles kept getting in your way? What trends did you notice but not act on? Most people skip this entirely. They rush from one task to the next without extracting the lessons buried in their own experience. Strategic thinkers treat their lives like a continuous experiment, analyzing the data, refining the hypothesis, adjusting the approach. Here's a common example. Aspiring entrepreneurs jumping from one trending business idea to the next, chasing shiny objects. They see a success story and try to copy it, without understanding why it worked. Someone with strategic pattern recognition looks at multiple successful ventures across different industries and finds the common threads: effective positioning, a clearly defined pain point, a strong community. They don't just copy the surface. They extract the underlying mechanics and apply them to their own work. That's the difference between reacting to waves and understanding tides. These skills don't operate in isolation. They reinforce each other. Cognitive decoupling clears the emotional static so you can assess situations clearly. That clarity informs your strategic identity construction, the version of yourself you're actively becoming. And that identity empowers you to act decisively on the patterns you've learned to recognize, which in turn feeds back into how you think and who you're becoming. It's a self-reinforcing loop, a virtuous cycle that compounds over time. You are not locked into your current financial reality. That's a story, and you have the power to rewrite it. The code isn't hidden behind walls you can't scale. It's accessible, but it requires discipline, personal responsibility, and a deeper understanding of how your own mind works, how your identity shapes your outcomes, and how the world around you actually operates. That quiet hum of frustration you've been feeling? That's not a life sentence. That's an invitation. An invitation to think differently, show up differently, and build the financial future you actually want. The path to $200,000, $300,000, and beyond isn't paved with motivational cliches. It's built with these foundational skills. It's built with intention. It's built by people who stopped waiting for things to change and started changing themselves. This isn't a quick fix. Let's be clear about that. If it were easy, everyone would already be doing it. Most people stay stuck not because they lack desire, but because they lack understanding, and the sustained, disciplined action that understanding requires. They chase shortcuts and gurus promising overnight results. They mistake consuming content for actually transforming. What we're talking about here is different. It's a strategic, intelligent, mastery-driven process. It's about building an internal operating system strong enough to navigate any economic climate, find opportunity where others find chaos, and execute consistently on a long-term plan. Look at strategic pattern recognition through a wider lens for a moment. It's not just about market trends. It's about recognizing patterns within yourself. What's your default response to financial stress? What are your ingrained spending habits? What stories do you tell yourself about money and your own potential? These internal patterns often have more impact on your financial outcomes than any external market force. Take this. Many people, when they receive unexpected income, find ways to spend it almost immediately. It's not a conscious choice to stay broke. It's an unconscious pattern running on autopilot, usually rooted in a scarcity mindset picked up early in life. The pattern says, money comes, money goes. Seeing that pattern is the first step to breaking it. Once you recognize it, you can choose a different response. Invest a portion, save a portion, allocate strategically, instead of letting old programming make the call for you. And that's exactly where strategic identity construction comes back in. If your identity is, I'm someone who struggles with money, then every financial decision you make will unconsciously reinforce that belief. You'll find ways to struggle even when opportunity is right in front of you. Your subconscious will work overtime to validate your self-perception. But if you build an identity around being a financially capable person who consistently creates wealth, your actions start to align. You seek out knowledge. You implement disciplined habits. You see setbacks as problems to solve, not signs that you were right to doubt yourself. This isn't delusional positivity. This is intentional self-authorship. Think about a successful entrepreneur. They don't just get lucky. They build an identity around being a problem solver, a value creator, a relentless executor. When they hit a wall, their identity doesn't let them stay down. It kicks in a response of analysis, adaptation, and forward movement. They don't take the setback personally. They treat it as data. What does this tell me? What needs to change? What's the next move? That's strategic identity construction doing its job. And none of it works without the objective clarity that cognitive decoupling provides. Without it, you're running on emotion and old programming, the same cycle that's kept you stuck. With it, you can look at a market drop, a missed deal, or a financial misstep and see it for what it really is. A data point. Something to learn from. Something that informs the next iteration of your strategy. You can feel the frustration. You can feel the fear. And you can still choose to act from a place of strategic clarity rather than being swept away by it. The path to the next level isn't just about earning more. It's about becoming more. More mentally sharp, more strategically aware, more disciplined in how you operate. It's about outgrowing the limits of your current thinking and stepping into a mindset of continuous growth. And it's not just about money. It's about freedom. Freedom from financial anxiety. Freedom to pursue the things that matter most to you. Freedom to make a real impact. But that freedom is earned. It's earned through the deliberate development of these three skills: cognitive decoupling, strategic pattern recognition, and strategic identity construction. So don't just watch this passively. Apply it. Look for the patterns in your own financial life. Challenge the stories you've been telling yourself about money. Practice stepping back before you react. Start making decisions from the version of yourself you're working toward, not the one you're trying to leave behind. The tools are right here. The question is whether you'll use them. The choice, as always, is yours.